Another way of speaking or teaching English is by using the lexical approach. And this is very, very important. Those who are English teachers here would probably be familiar with this, okay? But because we're looking at lexis does not mean that we should be teaching words in isolation. We're just teaching them about words, okay? So under the lexis of a language, grammar is usually structure, and lexis is more specific to word level. Okay, so we have the vocabulary of a language. If you don't build your vocabulary, you can't really speak a language. So it's very, very important. This is the reason why I love the functional approach, because you can quickly teach different expressions, and as a result, you can build the vocabulary of your learners. We can teach vocabulary or phrases. Okay, they're at the lexis level. Phrases are made as strings of words, okay, and they are part of a sentence, all right, and they have their peculiar definitions, which I'm not going into, but they're at word level because they're not a complete sentence. So we have affixes or affixation. Affixes are made up of prefixes and suffixes. So we can teach children about words at the word level, that you can add something to the beginning of a word. You can add a unit of meaning to the beginning of a word, and that unit has its own meaning. For example, accessible. Something is accessible. But when you add a unit of meaning in, which is a prefix, it becomes inaccessible. It's not accessible. So the meaning of in English is not. Okay, so we can have different types of information or formations at the beginning of a root word, and it can also be at the end of the root word. For example, truth could be truthful or truthfully. Present, presentation. Fortunate, fortunately. Okay, so I'm just showing you that the different things that happen at the word level. At the word level, we have compounds, classroom, timetable, box room, etc. Then we have idioms, which we teach at the level of lexis. Idiom, she passed in flying colors. Okay, collocation. Collocation, please note the word collocation and check it in your glossary, because I know the other ones are more familiar. Collocation, in English, there are certain words that occur together. Okay, so for example, we switch off or turn off the light. We don't say things like I can't find a better word because it's so well collocated, it comes together. So a surgeon performs an operation. It's collocation. Perform is always used with the word operation. Okay, so you perform an operation. You don't say the surgeon did an operation. We usually say he performs an operation. Can you think of other words? Can anyone think of any collocation you want to give me? Can you think of any collocation you'd like to give me? While you're thinking about that, we also have word levels like synonyms, words that are similar. Antonyms, there's a spelling mistake here, antonym, words that are opposite. Homophones, words that sound alike but are spelled differently and may even have different meanings. We have homonyms that are similar to homophones. Eat food. Somebody says to eat food. Yeah, I guess that would serve, but you get the idea. So we don't say we chew food, we eat food. They go side by side. Yes, perhaps we could use that, but there are some very key expressions in English that always, always go together. Then we have false friends. False friends. An example is the word library. Libraire in French. It means shop. So when a French person is learning English, when they hear the word library, they get excited. Ah, I know that word. It's a false friend. You don't know it yet. Library is a reading facility, but library in French is a shop. So sometimes our learners have difficulties mixing up words because they believe it's familiar in their language, but in English, it means something else. All right. So use your book, and I will show you samples of our tests so that you can see how these work out in the test. It's not really difficult to do the teaching knowledge test. I think what you should focus on is the methods for teaching English. Transfer those methods to teach other subjects, and also focus on how language works, because that way you can have clarity. You might decide to be more precise in the use of your language in the classroom so your students are not confused. So you can see that language is quite ambiguous. All right. Sometimes teachers have a problem in an exam. They ask a question in the wrong way. And the way they ask the question, it has potentially three different meanings. And when the student answers the question, the teacher says, "You are wrong." I remember many years ago, I was in a school and a child was complaining. I said, "What's the problem?" She said, the teacher said, the exam question said, name different farming implements. Name farming implements. And the child named one, and the teacher gave her half mark. And the child was cross. I got the question right. I asked the teacher, I taught her 4 or 5 different farming implements or instruments, and she gave me only one, so I gave her half. And I told the teacher, you didn't say name 4 or 5. You said name farming or a farming implement. I can't remember how it was phrased. But the teacher did not specify the number. I said, you all had a full mark because the problem is your sentence. You wanted her to name 5. She named 2, and you said she should have a half mark. Now, those are language problems that we can deal with if we are more precise in our language. So this is a language awareness part of the TKT. It's important because English language is a language of instruction. Now, in language, we have denotative and connotative meanings. Not every meaning is direct. Some meanings are indirect, and I've given you examples. Birds can fly, so to fly, define fly. Somebody would say fly is to soar, in the wind or above the sky or above the earth, to soar, to fly, to use your wings and fly. Correct, but fly can also mean, to attain to another level. I need to fly to the next level. So you have denotative meanings and you have connotative meanings, making you aware of the language that you use to teach. Be precise, be clear. And as a teacher, if you're teaching the verb fly, remember that you can also teach it as an idiom or an idiomatic expression. So we have different formations, and I'd like for you guys, as you study for your TKT, you need to go through your study, your glossary, and find out the meanings of each one of this. I've explained some of them. The denotative meaning is the straightforward meaning. It's not hidden. It's not indirect. It's direct. Denotation. So on the lexical level, we have denotation, we have synonyms, we have antonyms, which are opposite words. Lexical sets are words that, have the same similar categorization. Okay, so we have lexical sets. Synonyms or antonyms could work together as a lexical set. So words that have a common feature are called lexical sets. So in the TKT, you might be asked to identify if something is a lexical set. If they have a relationship, you can see they are lexical sets. So the relationship could be that they belong to the same family of instruments, or the same family of synonyms, or the same antonyms. Just look at it carefully. Do they have something in common? Then they're likely to be a lexical set. Then we have word families. Okay, so word families, you can find words, root words, that can be constructed with affixes, either with a prefix or with a suffix at the end. That's word family. Then homophones, I've mentioned them before. Homonyms function like homophones. False friends, I've mentioned that. Prefix plus base word and suffix plus base word, they are affixes. Then you have compounds, compound nouns, compound words, you have collocation. So these are some of the lexical features. So when you're teaching idiomatic expressions, you are at the level of lexis. How rich is the vocabulary of your learner? So I have two words here, and I'm going to just use one. Let's look at the word life. It's a noun. Denotative meaning, it's just being alive. That's denotative. But it could have a connotative meaning, which I did not focus on. Synonym, life, alive, live, existence. Antonym, what's the opposite of life? Usually we say death. Lexical sets, we can find a relationship in this word. So we can say exist, live, living. Okay. Word family, lifeless, lively, so the root word and the suffix. Okay, I couldn't find a homophone. I wonder if there's life, life, life in English with a homophone where I couldn't find one, or homonym. Could it function as a false friend, perhaps in another language that I'm not familiar with? Prefix, is there some prefix, a unit we can put to create a new word from the front? If you can find one, I couldn't. I could get and I couldn't find one. Okay, suffix I could find. Compound words, lifestyle, collocation, to take a life. You take people take life. To take a life. You don't say you killed a life, you took a life. Okay, so just teaching you how English language works.